So this video is going to talk about specifically house washing and the process that we do when we're washing a residential place. So typically when we pull up, first thing we'll do is actually on our way within our app, House Call Pro, we're going to send a text alert. We push one button that says on my way. That lets the client know that we're on our way. That way they can put their dogs in, make sure all the windows are shut. Once you arrive, you'll hit start my time within the app. And the first thing we do, we're going to pull out the water hose to connect up to the house, because we want to make sure that our water is always topped off in the tanks. Each truck has the capacity for about 200 gallons. So once we put that water hose on there, it's going to fill up the tank until the float valve in there stops it. So you don't have to worry about it overflowing. So once you've hooked up the water, you're going to do a walk around, take pictures, look for any damage, any siding that's loose. And while you're doing that, you're going to tape up all the electrical outlets. So electrical outlets, they all get covered with plastic bags, which are actually shower caps that are disposable. So we put the shower caps over top of the electrical outlets and run tape across the tops, sometimes the sides if we think that water can get into the sides. Also, we're going to tape up all of the air conditioning unit boxes outside where the shutoffs are. Those are going to be bagged and taped, as well as any the electrical boxes. We're going to put a piece of tape across the top, the bottom, along two seams there, just to make sure no water, no soap gets inside that box. Then, as we're making our way around, we're looking for cameras. If they've got Ring cameras at the front, if they've got security cameras up high, we're going to bag and tape those as well. And we want to tape those in a way that water isn't going to come down and seep down into the camera, just because that soap can get in there and can begin to corrode things over time. If you leave those cameras completely exposed, if soap gets in there, it doesn't get rinsed off, it could corrode things over time. So that's really important to do so. Generally, the very last thing that we do cover is if they have a front Ring camera. We're going to cover that very last, because we like folks to be able to see as we're making our way around the house. They can see that we're there. They can kind of spy on us and see what's going on. So that Ring camera at the front door, if they have one, that's going to be the very last thing that we cover. So at this point, we've got all the electrical covered. We've done a walk around, taking pictures, check for any loose siding. If there is, we're going to make sure we take pictures of that and document it. That way it doesn't come back on us saying, hey, we've got loose siding now. So now you're going to pull out all your hoses. Most of the time you're just going to be pulling out the gray hose, which is the pressure washing hose that we use for soft washing as well. Once you got your hoses all set up, you've done your walk around, we'll generally pull that hose. You're going to pull all 200 feet of it out, so you'll wrap around the house as far as you can go. If it doesn't quite make it around to all the way around the house and to the other side, maybe we'll just start on the back and make our way around. It's a lot easier to pull that hose completely out and around and make our way back than it is to try to jump from side to side. Also at the very end, we pull that hose all the way out as far as it can go, because it's a lot easier to reel in. Start washing. Typically we're going to look for plants that are flowering, those types of things. You want to make sure you soak the soil real good beforehand. On your remote, there's going to be a rinse button. Once you fire up that machine, it's going to be on rinse automatically. So we get all the flowers soaked down and wetted down. If it's a sunny day particularly, you're going to pre-wet the siding and particularly the windows, because once that soap gets on there, of course it's a mixture of a detergent, apple wash, and sodium hypochlorite, aka bleach. It's only a 1% strength, but if you have a very hot window and that vinyl siding that's around there, when that soap hits that, sometimes it can cause it to oxidize in a quick manner, and it can cause milkiness on the window. So we want to cool those windows off, particularly when it's really hot out. You want to cool that siding down so you don't get what's called flash oxidation. So once you've done that, you start washing. Typically I like to spray the gutters first, because those are usually the dirtiest part. Or if you've got siding that's super green, you're going to hit that first. That way that our soap can sit on there for a little while and really start to work and killing all that algae that's on there. We're going to wash one side at a time if it's a normal sized house. If it's a very small house, you might soap 2 sides, come back and start rinsing. So once you've applied the soap, you're going to kind of let that sit. Sometimes it's just a few minutes, sometimes it might be 5 minutes. Really depends. If you've got an area that's really still green, you're going to soap that a second time. When you're soaping, you always want to put your fan tip. We have an M5 twist on your gun. You're going to have a shooter tip, which just looks like that, and then you have an M5 twist, which you can turn to do a straight stream or a fan. You always want to use the largest fan that you possibly can to be able to reach the areas that you're trying to get. And the reason for that is when you've got a straighter stream, it can remove the oxidation that's already on siding, and so once that dries, you can kind of see those marks. And you've probably seen where people have pressure washed and they've taken off that oxidation layer with high pressure, and you've got these streaks everywhere. That's what we do not want to cause. So once you've applied the soap on there, you're going to let that sit for a moment. Typically by the time I've already coated the gutters and I've made my way down the house, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to rinse, and I'm going to water everything down. I'm going to rinse the windows real quick, just as soon as possible, because we don't want that soap drying on there. We're going to hit any plants that may have got some overspray with just straight water, and then it's time to rinse that side. We'll start at the gutters, get those rinsed off. A lot of times you're going to either have to use, if it's a second story, the shooter tip, or you're going to turn the M5 twist to a stream. Get those gutters, make sure you get that top lip underneath. Then you're going to turn to a slight fan, get the soffits real nice. We don't want to shoot water directly into those soffits, because water can get inside there, then drip all the dust and dirt that's up inside those holes and start coming out later on. Make your way across the house, working from the top to the bottom, getting that rinsed. Where the siding overlaps, we don't want to spray so that we're spraying water into the overlap of that siding. We always want to try to come in at an angle to where it's going to go over that overlap. And once you've rinsed and you see absolutely no more suds, move on to the next side there. Make your way around the house. Once everything's done and you've given it a good check over, we always make sure that we do the front porch area, the overhang, all of that. That can be kind of a tricky part because some of those porches are small, they're difficult, so you're probably going to get very wet. You're going to get soap all over you. So you get the front porch area, making sure you get all the nooks and crannies, pillars, all that stuff, railing. A lot of times on front porches, you're going to see a lot of flowers out there, so you're constantly going between soap and rinse, soap and rinse. Lots of nooks and crannies there, so really have your eyeballs peeled for that. Cobwebs, spider webs, spider eggs, sacks, all that stuff need to be rinsed down thoroughly, making sure we're not shooting water into cracks and crevices that are going to come down and get into any woodwork. We're going to pressure wash the front concrete, assuming that it's not like freshly sealed or freshly painted. We want to kind of use our discretion on that. The front concrete walkway, if they have one, we're going to use the surface cleaner. So obviously the surface cleaner does much better than using a wand. A lot of times you're going to edge that in first with the wand, because that surface cleaner being a circle, it can't get to those corners. So when I'm working on that concrete, the first thing I do is I edge everything in, get any corners and nooks and crannies with the wand, and then we come back with the surface cleaner, make sure that's all rinsed off. You're going to make sure you do a full walk around of the house, make sure there's no windows that have streaks on them, anything. If you're doing window washing, that's when you would start that. Really important to rinse off driveways. If we're not power washing the driveway, we're going to rinse off the driveway, make sure the mulch is off. Always check the mailbox, make sure their mailbox, if it's out at the front there, it's not got green and stuff on it. Just little things. If you see something that's not included in a typical house wash, maybe they've got some little pavers out front, retaining wall, and you're like, hey, this is going to take me 5 minutes to clean. We always do that. Try to add in a little extra. If you notice anything such as like, hey, you've got a bird's nest in one of your gutters, we can alert the client to saying, hey, you've got a bird's nest in your gutters, or your dryer vent is got a lot of lint within the little trap out there. We always like to send a message just saying, hey, this is something you might want to address at some point. We could possibly address it then, add that onto their invoice. Once we've got everything rinsed off, make sure the front porch, everything's rinsed off of there. If water is sitting on the porch and it's like up against the house, we're going to squeegee that out. You can also use the leaf blower. Just have to be sure we're not kicking up more stuff and more mulch. Once you're done, you do your walk around, you take your pictures. You're going to pull all the tape and get the water shut off. Usually the very last thing we do is the water shut off, just to make sure we have a full tank there. Get your pressure washer hose all reeled in there. Pull in that water hose. Put the yard sign out. You'll hit on the app End Job, and that's going to send a text notification to the client, letting them know that everything is finished. And sometimes they'll text right back and say, hey, thank you so much, appreciate it. Then you'll go ahead and send the invoice, making sure that everything is correct, that you've done all the services that are on there. And then once that yard sign's out, pack up, you're free to leave. That is the house washing process for Crabby's Pro Wash.